Okay, well, howdy. That's what I say instead of aloha. I'm Edwin Wilde. I'm speaking about livestock. The title of my presentation is Livestock, the Best Food Storage Program. Now, the reason why I say that is because it's delicious. There's generally a handful of reasons when people are putting together a food storage program, and they're looking at wheat, they're looking at beans, they're looking at things that are long storage items, and those are all great. I don't discount those. I don't speak against them at all. But when we talk about those types of things, generally what the feedback that you get from people is it's not the food that I eat on a regular day basis. And so if I ever was in a position to where I had to adjust to that, it's going to be pretty hard to do that. So first and foremost, I would say, well, then make that your daily, change your eating habits to do that. But meat, red meat, I know it's got a bad name, but it is, on top of being delicious, it is full of the nutrients, the protein, and everything that we need to be able to sustain life in the event of needing to tap into our food storage program. Other factors that people usually hate about food storage programs is if you ever move, they're hard to move. The nice thing about livestock, generally when you're moving them with your mind. You're trying to outthink an animal. And as long as you have a good relationship with knowing how to do that, it's a lot less strenuous on you to move thousands of pounds of food doing that versus having to reach down and pull out 55-gallon drum barrels full of wheat that you haven't given any thought to since you filled it 10, 15 years ago. So from there, a lot of people have been reaching out to me about, well, okay, if I wanted to start looking at developing some kind of livestock operation, what do I need? Well, okay, that's not, the thing about livestock is it's not a one size fits all, okay? And one thing, I'm on a sheep and cattle ranch in up here in northern Utah, about 30 minutes east of here, up towards the Wyoming border. And one thing I can tell you is we live in a valley. We range on the west side of our valley. Literally just on the other side of that valley is a completely different operation from the type of operation that we run. There are reasons for that. So you have to know what you have available in other words, you choose the animals that you can run based off of the ground, not force the ground to run your livestock. If you have grasses, if that's what you have naturally, I would say you probably have a better operation for cattle because that's naturally what cattle eat. If you try to put sheep on that type of terrain, they're not going to do real well. Conversely, if you have a forested area that's got a lot of dense brush, oak brush in particular, mulberry brush, things with small leaves, cattle aren't going to do real well. If it's real steep, cattle aren't going to do real well. That's the kind of terrain that you want to get maybe sheep or even goats for. Now, the other thing about using livestock isn't only meat production. Today alone, I really loved and I enjoyed Alyssa Prater's presentation because the idea of what sheep themselves, we run more sheep on our operation than cows. That's because sheep can survive on a whole lot less foraging than cows do. Cows generally need about 20 to 30, depending on when they're with calves or when they're without calves, pounds of food a day. Out in the Intermountain West, that requires more terrain to be able to have the cows. So for example, on our operation, we find that we can raise 10 lambs to every one calf. Well, if you look at it, those 10 lambs tend to be about 100 to 150 pounds apiece. You times that out by 10 by the time that we're taking them to the point that where they're ready to slaughter, and you look at the calf in the same time period, that calf's going to be 500 pounds. So you're getting double the usage out of the lamb or goat than you are for the cattle. But like I said, a lot of that depends on the type of terrain that you're looking to do. If you have any questions, if you're looking to get into livestock, I would be more than willing to talk with you about it, because like I said, a lot of it is case by case. Knowing what you're looking at, knowing what your irrigation options are, if there are any irrigation options, what the terrain is like, how much snow you get, if you get snow, all of those things come into play. I'm open and willing to do that. I've noticed a common theme kind of generates more in this event to gardening. And one thing I want to say about sheep is we've developed, on our ranch, we've developed the ability to take the wool, the waste wool, and we can pelletize that. So when we talk about a food storage program and we talk about growing in gardens, the pelletized sheep wool from your sheep that you can raise, and this is normally waste wool. This is stuff that you're not going to ever put into clothing or fabric. This is the stuff that it's so dirty, it's got a lot of vegetable matter in it, it's got feces or whatever else. You can take that, you can pelletize it. It has roughly a 13% nitrogen content. So at a 13, I mean, most of your commercial fertilizers that if you're buying to do gardening, they're about 9%. This is 13. In addition to that, you can reduce your watering need by a third. So you've got the fertilizer content, you've got the ability to retain water in the soil with the wool, and particularly this helps more with the pelletized wool. And then it also creates the porosity so the roots can grow out in a more broad sense. Anyway, that's another sense of when we're talking about preparing for food, preparing for planting. These are all things that livestock can offer to us. So I'm going to end there, and if you have any questions, like I said, I would rather do it person to person, because like I said, it's a lot more helpful to do that than it is in a large audience presentation. So thank you.